So welcome to week 8 of this AutoCAD course. So this week we'll focus on various productivity enhancement techniques that AutoCAD allows us to accelerate our drafting process and also to reduce the repetitive action times. So until last week we had looked at different quality assurance techniques, that is GD&T techniques. So now we'll focus on the productivity enhancement techniques. So here this week we'll look into concept of filters to quickly select what is of interest to us, doing different modifications on that. And next we'll see an important concept. We'll dwell a lot into the blocks settings. So we'll look into geometric constraints, dimension constraints that can be applied to the blocks. Then also we'll evaluate what are dynamic blocks all about and how we can manipulate the different actions and parameters to use the same block to serve differently in different instances. So that we'll look into one by one in detail, and also we'll look into functionality called as an attribute definitions to assign certain tags to the block so that it is easily readable and can be easily manipulated based on the requirements. So we'll also look into one more functionality called as a layers. So that will be used to manipulate the drawings in different manners based on the selection parameters. So using these techniques we can enhance the productivity of our drawing, that is to remove the repetitive elements or apply a bulk editing option to certain parameters or certain elements in the drawing without affecting others. So these are the various productivity enhancement techniques that we will be covering this week, and also we'll look into the various shortcuts that are available in AutoCAD. So far we had seen a lot of shortcuts that we have looked into, but here we also have one key shortcuts or toggle keys or alphabetical shortcuts to the different commands so that we can quickly invoke them and work upon. So first of the productivity techniques we are going to look at is the filter command. So before looking into this filter, let's see what are the various requirements we have to select the different objects. So if you could recollect, we had this quick select option that we looked into earlier to quickly select a component that is of a requirement to us. So we'll quickly look into that command. So what we have to do is we have to type in Q-select. So we'll get this Q-select and we'll get this dialog box. So wherein we apply to this entire drawing or to this different layers that we want to specify, and within that drawing what type of object that needs to be selected. So that is selected by this thing. So typically based on your drawing, the basic objects that are already listed will be here. So it means that this quick select only lists all the objects that are already available in your drawing. So based on that you can make your selection, and based on the selection object type then you have the different options to look into. For each and every properties then you can filter it or select it rather. So suppose if you select the arc, and you can select based on the arc length or the area or based on the different requirements you can go about. So suppose if you go for a multi-leader line, then again you can go to which type it is, whether you make the decision based on the arrowhead size or the leader extension line, or so these kind of individual property based selection is what you do it here. So next what we have here is the operators. So in operators what we can see is based on the selection of the object type and the property, whether it equals to the value or not equal, or based on all the types that are selected. It means that once you go for the select all, it selects all the multi-leaders that are within the drawing, and again it selects like where to apply to, whether it should be included in the new selection state or exclude from the existing selection type. So this, for example, once we do it and click on OK, you can see that all the multi-leaders from the drawing alone have been selected. So this is your Q-select option that you first looked into for selecting the similar objects that are of interest for us. Suppose if you want to vary the properties together, then instead of selecting one by one in the drawing, based on that property you have selected using the skill select option. Other way of doing is, you can select the object of interest, right click it, and then use the select similar option that is available. So when you use the select similar object, all the objects that are similar to the selected function will get selected. Suppose if you select this rectangular object and then giving quick select, you can see that none of the objects, because it has to select based on the object type. If you select the dimension line and then click on select similar, you can see all the linear dimensions alone have got selected. The arc-weld dimension, the leaders are not selected. So this is also one method of doing it. But rather a faster way of doing it is what is the filter command. So in filter, what you do is, based on the conditions that you have, you can filter out the elements as a grouped command. In this command, it's going to create a list of requirements, all the conditions that an object must meet so as to get included in the selection set. So this filter is going to be extremely useful when you are going to select a set of objects that are going to share one or more common properties. Because earlier in this Q select, what we see is you selecting based on a single property alone, but whereas in filter you can make a combination of those parameters. For example, suppose you can drawing object, you can select the dimensions as well as the object together. Suppose if the object, that is, if you have to select all the circles in an object that is less than 5 mm in radius, and select all the linear dimensions and select all the arc-weld dimensions, that you can do through your filter. That is, you are using multi-set of parameters into a single command. So this is the application of your filter command. So in order to use that filter command, you can invoke it by typing in fi or filter. So once you do on that, you get the object selection filter dialog box. So we'll quickly look into what are the key features in this dialog box. So here you have a list. Currently that list is empty. So in order to occupy the list, the first option what we have is to select the type of filter that you need to do. So here you can see what are the different properties or the object behavior that we have that can be selected from here. And towards the back end of this, you also have different operators that are available. These are all called the Boolean operators, and here we have the Boolean operators of AND, OR, and NOT, and also exclusive OR. So these four Boolean operators are prefixed with this some command called as a begin and an end. So we look into that command separately. So now, based on the object type, suppose we were discussing about the dimension. Suppose let's look into the dimension alone. So we have selected this filter, and now we can see that none of the other options get highlighted, because for this filter type it is straight to the point. So that then you can click on the add to list to add this object selection type to the dimension onto the filter list. This is one way. Or add based on the selected objects, you can pre-populate this command. So before selecting the object, we just look at one more link. Suppose if you go for a line type, then you can select the line type that you want to do. You can select the line type by block definition or by layer definition, or based on the predefined lines that we have in the system. Suppose if you go for a shape, or rather let's go for a point. Or a line. So based on this, you can add in so whatever features that you want to do. This line is, when you do this, it just applies a single command to this. We are just selecting a single line. Alternatively, you can also select an object and then include in it. So in that case, you can add selected object. So once we click on that, the dialog box is going to get temporarily hidden. And suppose if you want to add this arc-weld element, so now all the properties associated with that get aligned here. You can see that the object line was the command that we had entered, but based on the selection of that curve arc property, so that object equal to arc is listed, and all the other parameters, that is the arc is from the layer 0, line type has been selected as tri-layer, then the arc center point, x, y and z coordinates have been picked from there, and arc radius. So this denotes the object that we have selected. All the properties corresponding to that object has been selected. So this is what mean by the selection of the filter view. So next what we have is, you can edit the items that are displayed in this list, or delete them, or clear the entire list. So suppose if you do not want to have this, you can click on this edit and say that the z-axis should be 2. Then that will get substituted here. So you can see that the z equal to 1 has been substituted by z equal to 2. So that is how you modify the items here. And next we can save the filters that we have based on this group. Suppose let us say it is a filter 1. So now all the parameters here will be saved as filter 1, so that at any point of time we can refer to this named filters and then execute the filter command together. So this will be very useful for you if you create certain named filters, and that you can cross applicate for each and every drawing you have. That is, you can create filters based on the dimensions, or based on the colors, or based on the text properties, so that you can categorize them. So by categorizing them, it will be helpful for you to do the layer based separations that we look subsequently. So this is how we have created this filter layer. In order to apply this filter, then you have to click on the apply feature. And now AutoCAD refers to select the objects within which the filter needs to be applied. And right now we have to apply it to the full object, and then select all the objects that have a dimension property and with arc. So if you use the selection method and do it, you can see that none of the object is getting selected. Let's look into why so. So let us invoke this filter again, and you can see that there are two objects that are called for with different properties. So AutoCAD typically what it does is, it applies an AND operation by default to all the object filter that is applied. It means that it is looking for a dimension and an arc with all these properties. So we do not have an object of that sort here. So that's why it's not getting selected. In order to quickly see like how it can be applied, let us remove the other features except for dimension. Now you can see, now the present object selection criteria is only the dimension. So in that case, let us click on apply again, and now select the entire drawing. Now we can see all the dimensions pertaining to this selection area has been selected. So this is the application of your filter property. So after applying filter, you have to select the objects upon which the current filter has to be used. So this is how the difference between your Q-select and the filter is going to act. In Q-select, you can apply where the filter is going to act on, or in select similar, you can again go for the same manner. But here, you have to select the objects again where you have to apply the filter. So this is the direct method of executing a filter. So we also looked at when more than one condition is added, AutoCAD by default assumes an AND operation to it. So let us see a variation to it. So assuming you want to select the single leader as well as the multi-leader along with this dimension, other dimension that we have, then we can invoke this filter command again. Now let us add those commands. So towards it, what we are going to do is, we are going to add an OR operand. So now let us look into the operands, logical operators, one by one. So we have 4 logical operations. We have AND, OR, NOT, and exclusive OR. So when we are going to use the logical operators, typically the command starts with the starting operator and then you enter on the operands, that is you give out the conditions and then close it out with the ending operator. Suppose if we look at all the text with a text height of 2.5, then how we can do is, so start off with the AND operator, so begin AND and then click on the next line and now insert the text object, add to list and then click on the next line, because suppose if you keep on the same line object then it will be inserted at this point. So you have to give care how is the order of text that is going to be placed. So the text height of 2.5 and then finally we can close it out with the end AND. So what it does is, the command goes like this: a text of object and a text of height 2.5 will be filtered. So this is similar to your block operation, that is you can consider that there is an open braces here and close brace here, that is indicated by your begin and end. So within which individual lines of this filter commands are appended using your AND command. So once you click on apply and then go on to select your objects. So now if there are any text with those height will get selected. So let us create one dummy text to figure it out. So text height of 2.5 and angle of 0. So let's say sample text. So now let us run filter again. So now you can see this has been highlighted because here this satisfies both the conditions of the text as well as the text height. Suppose if you want to go for multi conditions, that is we select all kinds of radius dimensions, that is we want to have an arcual dimension. So you can look at here, we have to have the dimension, a leader and multi-leader. So in that condition, let's look into how we can do it. So instead of AND, we need to replace by an OR operation, because at either one condition is true, then we have to include that in our selection list. So we'll go by this. So we'll select the dimension and then the object of multi-leader and then also the leader and then close it out with the OR command. So now you can see that the OR operation is applied to all the dimensions, the leader lines and the multi-leader line. So this is how you execute your filter command. So the other application of the filter you have to be very clear of is that this filter does not work directly with the color condition. Suppose if you want to select the filter of all the red color objects or blue color, so when red color is going to get assigned with your filter command, it does not select through. That is, you assign by this color and then assign the variation. Suppose if you go for the number, say red, so in that case we cannot do it, but rather what we can do is by only either through the layer. So by layer command, Okay, cannot directly substitute by that, but if you give on it here, then it would not get selected, but rather you have to get select by the layers only. So here let us say let us modify the properties to the indirect command. Okay, so now let us try running this filter properties without all this, only with the red. Now it has got selected, but in some cases it is not going to get selected. Then when you set the filter condition by the layer, then it will it's likely to select all the layers. Suppose if it's not working, then you can go by the layer commands to filter it out. So that we look in the next chapter. But typically now we have seen how we can use the filter command and using different combination of operators to select the objects of interest to us, upon which we can perform group edit or group modification options.